crystalline structure of water. Now, obviously, for water to look like a crystal, you have to freeze it. And when you freeze water, it takes a crystalline shape. We've all seen this. You just got to look at a snowflake. It's a crystalline shape of water. And some of the Dr. Emoto, the famous Japanese guy, who shows how you can freeze different water from different people, and it takes different types of crystalline shapes that often represent their emotional state at the time. So people who are angry have a very, very weird looking crystal versus people who are in love or something like that. What we have found is that it's not so much that shape, but the ability of water to be crystalline as a liquid. In other words, to behave as a liquid crystal. And remember, crystals can be liquid. You know, that's a standard function. That much of the functioning of the cellular metabolism and everything like that works on the basis of water having that crystalline structure. Okay, and what we've found is under stress and many other factors, but again, mainly stress, and or poor water consumption, or poor quality water, or badly treated water, you actually have water in the body that is not functioning right. For example, it is not crystalline by nature. So if you freeze it, all you get is a clump. You don't get a crystal. Okay. Now that water will not conduct electrons well. It will not act as a catalyst for chemical reactions. It will not break down into energy and things like this. So effectively, you're not functioning well. And very often you'll feel thirsty, you feel the need for water because you know you're not getting correct nutrition. For example, you're not transporting your vitamins and everything across the cell membrane and so on. So a person can be eating well but actually have malnutrition because their water molecules aren't working well. And of course you see people swallowing water and drinking water all the time, and you're getting told drink plenty of water, but that doesn't often do the job. People can be swimming in water, but if the water isn't behaving properly, and if it isn't moving through the cell membrane properly and things like that, you've just got too much water in your body that's useless to you. Okay? And that's the key. It's not the quantity of water that you're consuming, it's the quality of the water when it gets in there. And the next technique that we do in the Access system is a particular program where we program the limbic system, because we have found that it is emotional stress that seems to upset the crystalline structure of the water. And by balancing the limbic emotional centers of the brain, quite specifically to water as it were, we can cause a recrystallization of the water within the body. And that means it starts functioning properly. And that makes a huge difference in your health as far as nutrition, energy, conduction of nerves, handling of stress, everything like that. So in a world today, hydration problems are serious, really serious. And hence is why we included it in the Access course, because it is really a critical factor in anybody healing from anything. If you're trying to even just get over a virus or a cold or something, very often it's the poor functioning of the water in the body that stops you from doing that. So hence we have this hydration treatment. Then our next technique that we use is one of the big ones. It's one of the original factors of BodyTalk. It and the cortices were the mainstay of BodyTalk for many years. And it's called our biochemistry treatment. And what this involves is, in conjunction with getting the brain to work better with the cortices, and making sure it's not switched, and making sure we've got good hydration, right, which is part of the formula that we use. Then we've found that what happens, again, because of stress over a long period of time, the average person's immune system has been compromised. It's overstressed, it's not working very well. And it's coping with a really serious problem. We've got millions of bugs going on, trillions of bugs going on in our system. A lot of them good guys, a lot of them bad guys. But when the immune system is stressed, it's like an army. It's not seeing its targets right. It's not being able to isolate what it needs to do. It's often overreacting to things it doesn't need to react to. And often it's not finishing its job off. So for example, we can come down with a flu virus and we have the flu for a while, but because of the weaknesses of the immune system and the general stress levels of the body, we get over the flu, but not fully. And so, we've got rid of the heavy fever and we're sort of back to work, but then we stay chronically tired and chronically a bit achy and a little bit headachy. And it's like, I can't quite shake off this flu, until it actually becomes a long-term chronic situation that we could call chronic fatigue syndrome. And in fact, sometimes called fibromyalgia, although there are many other factors involved in that. But this happens a great deal. And what is happening now in the world is we have so many people who have a lot of chronic bugs in their system. They've got chronic flu viruses, they've got chronic Epstein-Barr or cytomegalovirus or malaria virus and so on. And these are viruses that they've got at some stage and picked up, sort of fought off, but never completely. And now they've been left in this chronic low-key viral situation. And this low-key viral situation will give rise to all your classic symptoms of just aches and pains and headaches, that you can put down to sometimes rheumatism and arthritis and everything, but they can get very severe, very debilitating. And in fact, nowadays they tend to get blocked into a nice big term called fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, which is very often, it's a combination of high stress levels, poor functioning immune system, chronic viruses or chronic bacteria or even chronic parasites, overstressed adrenals and so on. And what we've found is that by using the procedures that we're using in BodyTalk Access, in the majority of cases, by simply doing those a few times, we can actually get the body to work through and start repairing all that. In other words, the body will start attacking those chronic viruses and actually finishing the job off and getting rid of them completely. And it won't do them all at once, of course. But if you then do the access techniques sort of as a preventative, ongoing thing once a week over a period of time, your body will work through all these chronic viruses and chronic things you have in your system and gradually detox your system of them. Now, the types of things this works on is not just your viruses, it works on bacteria. It also works on parasites, particularly what we call microparasites, which are the little baby, tiny things you can only see under a microscope that can get up through the nostrils into the brain, they can get into the bloodstream, they can get into organs, and they colonize, and they can be there for years. And you could have someone with a colony of parasites in their adrenals that doesn't cause a disease in its own right, but that colony is like a pressure in there and a fatigue in there that will cause the adrenals to start chronically under-functioning. So you'll get chronic fatigue because you've got chronic adrenal insufficiency and hence poor stress handling and so on. Or I've seen them get into the pituitary gland, for example, and cause massive problems with the endocrine system. I remember one woman she was only 33 and hadn't had a period for over 8 years, and she was having all sorts of other endocrine problems, underactive thyroid, etc. And I treated her for microparasites, with this body chemistry treatment and the cortices and so on. And literally, within the next 2 months, she was back on a regular cycle, having her normal periods, her thyroid was functioning, her health had improved dramatically, her endocrine system had balanced. And the reason was that at some stage or other, she had picked up this microparasite, probably through the ethmoid bone and breathing it in, that got into the pituitary gland and created all sorts of problems. They can get into the brain and create, mimic tumors and give the symptoms of tumors when in fact they're just pockets of parasites. And the beauty is that these things can be addressed. The body will address them. You just have to point them out. And the technique that we teach in Access is designed to do that. And it's also very useful for the acute situation. So it means that when someone in the family comes down with the flu or something like that, you can use the technique, and what will happen is you'll get the body to put maximum effort into getting them over that flu. So instead of them taking a week to get over the flu, they should get over it in a couple of days, because you'll accelerate the whole process. So obviously, this is a very, very important part of BodyTalk Access, the ability to handle those. And by the way, it also will help to detox the body of build-up of toxic substances like mercury and things like that in the system, and lead.